Welcome to the first ever episode of the Loft of the Expressives with Peas in a podcast. Yes, we have made it. My team and I have ensured that our podcast finally materializes through proper planning, through sleepless nights, just to ensure that everything goes accordingly. And now that we are here, I can safely say we have made it. And it brings me so much joy. Now, this episode is brought to you by Dream Stream Studios. And joined in studio with me is Mrs. Kifilwe Muchapelo, a psychosocial well-being practitioner as well as a social worker who has taken time out of a busy schedule to come and speak to us, as well as our audience who are greatly affected by procrastination and self-sabotage. How are you, ma'am?
I'm good, thanks. How are you, my darling?
I am great. You look incredible today. What inspired your look for today?
I actually feel under the weather. Normally, I don't look like this. Next time, if you call me, you'll see me where I'm da.
This calls for a coffee later, I'm guessing.
Definitely.
Definitely. Now, for today's topic being procrastination and self-sabotage, it not only affects us as scholars, but also people who are in the work environment and who are trying by all means to, find strategies and methods as well as schedules to be able to go about their daily lives, to be able to, not even dismiss their meetings or even work. Responsibilities,
Exactly.
as well as for us, the youth. We are at a stage where we want to make the best version out of ourselves. We want to successfully pursue our dreams without any hindrance and without any distractions, right? So today, we're about to, Miss Kifilo here, she's going to help us find methods and strategies to deal away with procrastination and self-sabotage. Now, the internet informs us and educates us on these two factors, with procrastination being a factor of self-sabotage. So the internet also describes self-sabotage as behaviors that bring hindrance onto one's progression in life, as well as procrastination as well being a factor of self-sabotage. And the internet describes it as the Latin form procrastinate. I hope I'm pronouncing it that well. Which means to leave off things till the morning or to the following day. And now, Mr. Sade Zaharai also describes it as leaving off tasks to avoid the negative feeling that comes with it. And now, Dr. Mujapelo, you and I can both agree that, dismissing tasks brings a sense of temporary relief. However, it's not even compared to the guilt that will be felt right after. Now, going back to how you started with your career, what inspired you to pursue your studies?
I acknowledge when you said doctor, and I'm like, oh, I receive. But nonetheless, what inspired me to pursue, I think I've always, if my purpose, let me just describe it from there. My purpose is to nurture relationships, build functional families, and promote psychosocial well-being and restoration. So in a nutshell, I found my purpose and aligned it to my career. Then I had to find within my service provision as to what then the services I offer based on my purpose. So in a nutshell, it's my mission on earth. That's what I do. So instantly that is that. So in a nutshell, that's what made me fall on this career line.
Was it something that you've always wanted to do from a very young age?
Definitely. If it was not it was going to be sports management. The two is either that or sports management, and that's it.
Interesting, great. So now your support structure, who have been the people who have been supporting you from, being a young girl up until now?
My parents, and how as much as were not fully informed about certain things, my dad got me to meet people that I could ask questions from. So that's what solidified my vision on this career. And just natural observation and looking at people and behaviors, then you realize, and then it somehow or somewhat drives interest on certain issues and topics, such as like the topic of today, self-sabotage. And I love that, and I'm going to say self-sabotage and then procrastination back to it, because it's exactly that.
Yes.
And now why do you... There's a guilt that comes with it. And the sad part,
Exactly.
that same guilt is the one that entraps you into that mindset.
Yes.
And you are even now over the fact that you could not do something. Now there's a guilt. So there's a mind battle that you are entrapped in. So my work is to actually untangle that or detangle that, whatever the English is, and then work on the self. So I'm very keen on the self.
Now, have you ever had clients in the past or currently who are dealing with procrastination?
All the
And
time.
what are normally the after effects that, come with excessive procrastination?
Yeah. disciplinary hearing. So at my most, I do employee wellness as well,
Mm-hmm.
one of the services that I offer. And I also do psychosocial support services within all these companies and that I'm contracted to at least. And then students from any age, from children to adolescents to young adults. So you realize that, wow, a person procrastinates, and then I mostly, as much as I see the problem, I work from a person-centered approach. So I'm interested in you as Lindy as to what makes you procrastinate. And you, of course, you'll be crying at that point and bringing the problem to me. But from where I start, I'm like, tell me about Lindy Way, her ways of doing things, her philosophies in life, and I unpack that. And then from there, and then we go back to say, okay, use these strategies to work on the problem. Because I sometimes feel like it's the mentality over and above the mentality, the automated or patterns of dysfunctionality that results in that procrastination, and now you end up being buried in it, finding it so difficult to get out because now there's guilt. The more you do that, the more you blame yourself. The more you blame yourself, the more you are getting in other dysfunctional patterns of maybe you using substance because you want to forget your problems. So it started with a problem, a thought that you could not do something, act on it, and then it ended up in a certain behavior. So now I like focusing on, I love the approach called cognitive behavioral therapy. As much as there's behavior, that you hear behavior, there's cognitions. So I like unpacking the two. There's this behavior that we are seeing, laziness. And I'm saying laziness at the most. I know some people, they will say it's not laziness, it's procrastination, but to some degree, there's somewhat part of laziness in it. And then the laziness, not necessarily the laziness only of doing, but the mind. I don't think we visualize enough, and we'll get, I love what you said when you said strategies, but we'll get to it later. So those strategies, unpacking the behavior, finding the reasons for that behavior, and then going back to the mindset.
So, do you have a personal experience with procrastination? And
I
how have
do.
you dealt with it?
I do. And every time I find myself, some of the things, when you are doing, for example, you are studying or you're working on something, there's so many things that you are doing, guys. You're studying, you're in business, you've got kids. So you end up forgetting some things and important tasks. So you'll say, I'll do it, I'll do it. And that's, unfortunately, that's where it starts. I'll do it, I'll do it. And I'll feel guilty. And what I try to do is to try to exit the guilty trap. Because once I do that, I feel bad. And I don't want to feel bad. The more I feel bad, the more I'm in the negative patterns, then I'm
Yes,
not
and the
inspired to
guilt.
do anything. So I don't like it. So every time I feel like I'm hating them, like, okay, stop. And then I go back to, let's do it. And then I
Yes.
find ways, I go on my own tools and strategies of doing it, and then and unpack it. I'm like, okay, and then get things done. If I have to push, and like, today I slept at 3 a.m. in the morning because I had to push some work. So that's, I at least if you're able to exit the guilty trap, then you can get on the behavior of getting things done.
I mean, I can attest to that. I also tend to dismiss tasks for a later use.
Exactly.
And as I said, it brings a temporary feeling as well as feelings of shame, all of
Yes,
that. But also,
yes.
how would you also relate procrastination with other mental health disorders, for example, anxiety and depression? And since I've learned from research that excessive procrastination also brings a feeling of loss in trust. You feel like you're not worthy enough to pursue your dreams or to pursue your goals. So, how do these two relate?
They definitely relate. Let's pick on anxiety, for instance, which in layman terms or practical terms, simplified version of it, excessive worry on something. So that excessive worry, you'd have slipped a task, and then in the back of your head. I'll do it. I'll do it. The next thing, you start worrying about the fact that you're not doing it, and you said you'll do it. The more you do that, the more you feel incapable of completing certain tasks. The more you do that, the more you feel disappointed in yourself. The more you do that, then this now a basket of worries, which now could in stages, there's anxiety, and then could eventually lead to depression. So that's the
Yes.
link.
So, like a close friend of mine, right?
Mm-hmm.
She has a big problem with procrastination. So she tends to leave off her tasks for a later use, as well as, you know, triggers her self-esteem as well. So what
Yes.
would you advise her to do? What strategies would you advise her to come up with to decisively deal with whatever she's going through?
And I love that you linked it with self-esteem because it touches on the self.
Yes.
And then the self-esteem, I normally divide into two parts. The self-esteem from a point of you looking at yourself as worthy of doing something. And you looking at yourself from the point of competency. And so that's normally how I say, don't confuse the two, where you feel like you're not worthy, where you feel you blame yourself too much. And then now, because we have not developed competency on something. When I do confidence training, that's what we look at to say, okay, you haven't done something. Are you competent in it? Then we can say it's a competency loop. Then once you do it and then you consistently on it, then you become competent. The more you are competent, the more it builds your self-esteem. So normally I would say, simple thing where I start with self-esteem, incantation, saying things to yourself. We undermine the power of saying things with the mouth to say, I'm going to do it. I'm tired of feeling I'm bad. I'm not a bad person. I just say it with your mouth so that your mind's noted. You're making a mental note. From that, you'll feel your body feeling different. So you're commanding your body with your mind. That's what I love, because it's when I do there's a lot. I must come again, guys.
I hope you guys are taking notes, by the way.
So it's called metacognition, how you think about your thoughts,
Yes.
or the thoughts about your thoughts. So normally when we do that, I say simple thing to get out of the first step of exiting procrastination and feeling guilty and all that, way it touches on your self-esteem. Now you just get outside this guilty trap where you're feeling bad and doubt and self-doubt by saying, you know what, incantation, declare certain things with your mouth, and then go back to say, what do I need to do? Direct your day with your mind, so that you are not for me, that's 50% of the job done. Once you declare it, I will do 1, 2, 3. Write things down. Be practical, because if you're not going to be practical, then it's going to be too conceptual and it's entrapped in the mind. And so I feel like there's so much power in saying things out loud and writing. Inking goes a long way into remembering and completing tasks. So write. When I'm seeing that there's so many things that are in the mind, write. And then at the end they tick to say, what have you done? And exercise that more so that you do. You don't say, I wanna, just do it. Nike, let's just do it. So exit it by doing it. Instead of thinking about yourself of not doing something, just do it. Just say, I'm gonna do it, and then you do it, and then you write. And then after that, you tick. And the more you tick, you'll feel like, I've done something, you feel good. It's a boost into your self-esteem.
I like that you talked about, a growth mindset, personal positive talk is great as well, However, does procrastination ever get chronic to the point of even prescribing pills to customers, maybe?
It will not come as a diagnosis for procrastination, but like you said, anxiety and other things. So of course, that's where it starts. Now there's a particular client who is in the line of being disciplined, and you are giving warnings because you're not getting things done. So in a nutshell, you end up feeling bad because you are most likely to lose your job. And then in that way, it leads to anxiety, in that way, and then depression, because you are losing your livelihood in a way. So in that way, then in that linear approach, you end up being diagnosed of something, so one of the mental illnesses.
Well, I learned that self-sabotage also manifests in areas of your life, being your life goals, your life career. Another underlying factor, as you have mentioned, is the human mind as well, which prohibits us from, pursuing our personal goals because we feel like we're not going to achieve our goals, we're going to mess up. And so I know that positive self-talk is initially the best way to deal with this, as well as writing down, as you have stated. What other methods would you maybe give out?
I never leave a person without writing their purpose down. Hence, I'm person-centered. You might come with a problem, and then I'm going to say a value system. Please write your values down. I always carry a book. As much as I know them, I just want to look at them, because for me, it's an inner compass kind of. So write your values down, a value system. My values, number 1, I have 7. So write them down. Always wake up to those. For me, life is not about graduating and those big moments in our life. Life is about an everyday, your mindset, your state of being. So mental health is a health. Not health, it's a state of being. Once an illness comes, it means that there was an absence of health. So for me, simple thing, I hope it's that simple, but simple thing, write your values down.
Yes.
In that way, you are commanding yourself to say, I am this, I will live by this. If you're, for example, you are slow on certain things, write it. I am a developmental person. I'm doing this. I'm a doer. I'm an actor.
I'm a winner. Yes.
Exactly. Write it, and don't just declare it with your mouth, profess it with your mouth. Live it in your reality. So have those value system, number 1. Number 2, always check in with yourself as to how you're doing in line with those values, in line with your goals, in line with who you are and who you are becoming in a nutshell. Because all these things that we do, they end up forming kifilwe. So at the end of the day, who is Kifilo? I'm gonna end up describing myself, and I'm like, I'm bad with timing. I procrastinate. Because there's been a pattern, consistent patterns of dysfunctions that when I wanna rise, like, so you don't find yourself identifying as that. So even if you do sharp from today, Write it down, put it in a wall, let that drive you every day. Wake up to your values. Wake up to say my values. As you are dressing up or taking a shower, say them out with your mouth until you know them with your head. To a point where when you're doing something wrong, it's like, values are compromised. Because that's a check-in. It's an inner compass. Something that reminds you, you are Lindy, you are this. Lindy, you are a go-getter, you are a developer, you are an empowerer. Then you remember that, like, I am. Even if you didn't become, it's not about not becoming, it's about becoming. And continuously saying in your thoughts, visualizing yourself doing things. If you feel like I'm bad, sit yourself and advise to your friend. Sit, visualize, see yourself in a state where you are doing things, you are not procrastinating. That's a start. From there, take that feeling in. So that's a deeper mental work that goes onto the subconscious mind. To say, direct your mind so that even when you're sleeping, it can take this in. Because 93% of our times is unconscious, of our awareness, and then only few it's conscious. So let's infiltrate this unconscious mind so that we can do things. So simple thing, visualizing, writing your value system, and waking up to them every day. I like the statement by that says idealized in principle but disregarded in reality. But I want us to regard our principles and ideals in reality. What are our principles? The values that I've been speaking about. I talk too much, Lindy, but yes, in a nutshell, that is
this
that.
is I need this as a daily reminder each and every single day. I need
Awesome.
it. So how would you challenge the stereotypes that come with procrastination? Usually it is considered as a form of laziness for other people. So how would you challenge this? How would you educate more people out there who are not aware of this factors?
I would say instead of just classifying it as laziness, of course we see it's procrastination, but the question is, what are you doing about it? I feel like sometimes we always say it's laziness, it's what? And we are not looking at the functional ways of saying, how do I undo this laziness if it is? And it's not just laziness on the behavioral or action form, but I would say it starts here. So it's a deep mental work that one needs to get into so that you get things done. And then you say, I'm going to get things done. And then you write it down. Because I feel like most of the time when you're feeling like you're procrastinating, you're going to Google procrastination instead of looking at time management. So normally that's how I push myself. If I'm struggling from something or if it's my weakness, I'm like, okay, let me not read about procrastination. Let me read about time management.
Yes.
Exactly. And then now the more I read about the value of time, I'm most likely to say, okay, I can do better. Instead of hammering myself and be like, you're a procrastinator, you are, because it doesn't get me anywhere. So as much as it's laziness. I will not justify it and say, because the more we justify, the mind will know that it's okay and it's acceptable. It is not. So it's just to say it's not just an action thing, but let's look at our mind and the normal patterns of doing things and break that so that we can cultivate new ways of doing things. And mentally, so it starts here, and then the body follows the mind. This is the engine. So once it's rewired here, then the body follows. You'll find yourself getting into a new cycle. Simple thing, Lindy, if you can sleep 3 days consecutively at 3 o'clock, your circadian clock changes. So it's a simple like that to say, let's rewire like that. If you see like you're procrastinating, push 1 day, 2 days to doing some things, and after that, your body's going to reset naturally. So simple thing, if you feel like you're procrastinating, change it. Look at this podcast, guys, and then take notes.
Please do.
Exactly. We're going to make it trend. And then they learn, do the mind work. And then from there, the rest will follow.
All right. So do we have a question? No question. All right. I think this is about it. Well, this is the end of our episode. Thank you so much for joining us. It was a great honor having you around.
Thank you guys for having me.
Don't forget to hit that subscription button as well as the post notification bell, to get notified whenever we drop a new episode. Now, the contact details of Mrs. Muchapelo will be posted right below this podcast. And from myself and Miss Muchapelo, it is goodbye.
Goodbye.